In this segment, we're going to take a look at the Parallel Fill tool. And that's found here on the left-hand side of your workspace at the top of the designing toolbar. Now, before I get started using it, I'm just going to use my hotkey Control-A to select all of these objects and then delete them. That just cleans up my workspace a little bit. And so this is the tool that I want to show next. And basically, so far we've taken a look at the circle tool and the square tool, which were certainly easy to use, but we often need to make other types of shapes. And so the Parallel Fill tool, similar to the circle and the rectangle tool, has the flyout with all of these choices. So you've got satin fill, weave fill, embossed fill, motif fill, radial fill, contour fill, cross stitch, and stipple fill. So I'll just start with the parallel satin fill. And the way this tool works, you simply need to draw the outline of the shape. Now, if I left click, I get corner points. If I right click, I get curved points. And when I hit enter, it closes the shape and fills it in with thread. And for that reason, I like to call this the outline tool, because you simply draw the outline and it fills it in with thread. So I'll go ahead and try it again. Why don't we change it to the weave fill? And again, I'm just going to maybe get a little bit closer. I draw a shape. It can be any shape you want. Now, I don't have to close the shape. I simply draw as many points as I need to. And when I hit enter, it finishes from the last point that I put in to the first point that I put in and fills the shape in with thread. Now that's creating a parallel fill. What if I select it and then choose reshape? Now you can see here all of the points that I used to digitize this shape are on the screen right now. So those are called the nodes, and I could easily move the nodes. If I click on the shape, I could add a new node. If I left click on the shape, I get a new corner node. If I right click on the shape, I get a new rounded node. You can tell rounded nodes because they're green and they're in a circle shape versus corner points, which are yellow and are in a square shape. Now also in the reshape option of the parallel fill, we have the ability to choose the angle of the stitches, and that can be on any angle that you want. And let me just zoom back in on that object. So you choose the stitch angle. You also get to choose the starting point, so where will the stitches start sewing, and the exit point, where will the stitches finish sewing. So you can choose those points, they can be anywhere that you want in the shape, and you can choose the angle line and reshape the object. So that's the Parallel Fill tool, and maybe I'll just create one more time. So we could choose, why don't we go with a Parallel Contour Fill. And so if I draw a shape, and like I said, it can be any shape, and it's a combination of right clicks and left clicks. When I hit enter, it fills that shape in with thread. Now, as you can see, the contour fill is a very interesting fill type because the stitches try to contour around the shape, and because I made such an interesting shape, the stitches take on a very unique stitch pattern. Now, if I choose select that object and choose reshape, you'll see here that it's quite a bit different from the other parallel fill objects because, well, first of all, I do have the ability to choose the exit point, and I do have the ability, the starting point's actually here in the center. So what it does is it starts right in the center, and it basically walks its way out, walking around and around and around and around. And so it's not so much like the parallel fill where you choose the stitch angle, because the stitch is traveling around the shape, so it doesn't necessarily need to be, it's not like you just pick one stitch angle. You do have the ability to adjust the points in here, and you can see in here all the points that it takes to create this shape, and if you need to, you can move them or add to them. And you do have the ability to change. It's not the easiest thing to do, but it's also not hard. If you want to change the center point, so you can see here that it rotates around the center point, and if I look very closely at the center of this, you'll see that there's actually several nodes here in the center. And I could actually click and drag a box to select all of those nodes, and then I could move them. So for example, whoops, I gotta I let go of them. Like I said, it can be a little bit fiddly. Let me show again. Left click and drag to select all of those nodes, and then while you're hovering over the nodes, you get that multi-directional arrow, and that's where you could then move this location of this point, of the center of your of this contour fill. So that's the small difference when you go with the contour fill and the reshape versus the other types. Like, let's take a look at cross stitch. So again, with the cross stitch, left click to get corner points, right click to get rounded points. When I hit enter, fills it in with thread. Now if I select that object and choose reshape, it's very similar to a parallel weave fill. I can change my angle line, I can choose the exit point, and I can choose the starting point. I also have the ability to move nodes and or add nodes to the objects. And whenever there's a node, for example, this corner node right here, it's highlighted, it becomes like a darker blue. And when it's highlighted, if I hit my space bar, it will change between a corner point and a curve point. So that's the corner point, hit space bar, changes it to a curve point. So that's the parallel fill tool, and like I said, I like to call this the outline tool because you simply choose the tool, you draw a shape, and when you hit enter, it fills it in with thread.